Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Powerful Man Show. I'm your host, Doug Holt, with my co-host, Tim, the Powerful Man Matthews. What's going on, brother?
Yeah, I just saw a post of a friend of mine who's in Lake Como, and I'm like, oh my God. All these people that just defy and ignore the travel restrictions. I'm quite jealous.
There are a lot of people doing it. Obviously, I'm here in the States and, it's getting worse again. And it's like, it's not getting better. And people are out and about. My wife and I took our kids to a lake, or a small remote lake in the mountains up here. And there were still tons of people up there. I'd say tons.
Mm-hmm.
It's a remote lake, so there's about 50 people. That was, besides us, that was 50 people more than I wanted to see at this remote lake. But it was interesting to see, right? Kids don't know social distancing. So they're all over the place and what have you. And parents have to chase the kids. So now you're with them. And you always have those few people that just want to talk to everybody, right? They want to be your best friend for the day. This drives me nuts.
Yeah, I'm quite an introverted person in that kind of scenario. I like to just keep myself to myself, and I'm not necessarily bothered about speaking to a lot of people.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting to see, which kind of dovetails a little bit into today's topic. So what are we talking about today, Tim?
What if your wife wasn't a bitch?
My wife's not, especially if she's listening to
this. Insert blank, whatever name you want to call. So the reason for this, I'm curious to hear your take on this. So, again, I was speaking to another man in the Brotherhood. Let's call this guy Toby. I think we have a Toby in the Brotherhood, so Toby's a safe bet. So Toby was going through some problems in his marriage, and he had some complaints that kept popping up time and time again. It was the same complaint. So there was a pattern that was occurring there. And the pattern was he would see his wife parenting their kids in a particular way and then see her doing other things. And he would then start to judge her and tell her how she was doing it wrong, or tell her how his way was better, or avoid her, or just hold back from giving her and showing her the love that he has inside that he really wants to give her. Because if he did, he was then afraid of getting rejection. But at this point, he didn't know that. So instead, what he said was, if I was to do that, then she would react in this way and it'd blow up into an argument. And, he started calling her names. So she's a bitch, she's this, she's that. It was clearly annoyed and frustrated. And the thing with this is, in my opinion, anyway, instead of when I said this to him, I said, Toby, what if instead of your wife being a bitch, she was actually your greatest opportunity right now? And he's like, what do you mean? And I said, well, what if, instead of your wife being this woman who annoys you and frustrates you, she was actually this woman who was inviting you to grow and become the man that she knows you're capable of being. And quite honestly, the man you know you're capable of being as well, but you're just not. And he paused for a while. And I don't know if it was a good pause or a bad pause, but he paused for a while. He was taking stock. And he said, okay, I'm listening. We spoke about this on another podcast a little bit, but I wanted to dive in deeper now. And I said, well, there's certain theories about relationships that, we attract our spiritual equivalents. We attract a woman who is meant to invite us and teach us, invite us really, to be the man that we are capable of being, that we're destined to be in many ways. And you either answer the calling and do the work on yourself so that as you go through these situations with your wife, instead of seeing her as a bitch or seeing her as doing it wrong or seeing her in the way that you've been seeing her, you see it differently. You see it through a different lens because you've done the work on yourself, which by default means you wear a different pair of glasses. You see things differently. And some guys choose not to, one, even consider this point of view, which is totally fine, or two, choose not to accept it. And then as a result, nothing ever changes in the relationship, and then they leave the relationship only to end up with the same problems in another relationship, or even worse, in my opinion, end up with a woman that just, agrees and appeases them. So they never actually learn the lessons, and they stop becoming aware of what lessons are there for them to even learn. So I'm curious, Doug, what's your opinion on this? What's your experience with this? Yeah.
Well, my opinion is don't do this, Toby. you know, it's interesting to me whenever you think someone's mean, right? Oh, Tim's a mean person. You're always going to have those interactions with Tim as being mean, right? That's just not always true, right? Tim's not always mean in this example. I think it's interesting, and it's easy for us as humans to put our burdens and our blame on other people, especially the people closest to us. So for Toby, in this case, his wife, right? He is seeing her as being the root of the problem. But the root of the problem is within inside of him, right? That's where it's all stemming from. And for Toby to change, we talked about this in previous podcasts. If Toby was to change his outlook on his wife, my guess is his wife would change. But the reality here, Tim, in my experience, is that his wife won't change at all. It's just Toby's outlook of who his wife is, right? So all of a sudden, his paradigm changes. It's almost like I got him over here, these blue blocking glasses, right? My blue blocking glasses have orange tint to them, right? I got the cheapo ones, love them though. So I put those on, everything, they block the blue and everything has an orange tint. Now, however, if I were to wear those blue blocking glasses, the orange tint around 24/7, that's all I knew, I would assume everything was orange. But then if I take those glasses off and all of a sudden I can see clearly what's really going on. This is what, morning routines and gratefulness practices and changing your paradigm and focusing on yourself does for you. It gives you optics, it gives you clarity, and gives you vision. My guess is Toby, when he got together with his wife, if it's his wife, he married her, he didn't go, I'm going to marry this bitch, right? That wasn't his his thought process. He thought this woman was amazing. And odds are she still is, right? It's just what Toby is doing and bringing out of her that is the actual issue at hand. And I'm sure his wife can be awful sometimes. I'm sure Toby can be awful sometimes, right? It's just the way it is, right? There's ebbs and flows in relationships. However, it's your paradigm and your viewpoint that you come with that you see things. I'll give you another example. So we're up here in the United States. We're having an election coming up in a little bit. It comes up. Now you can see the same event. Let's just say there's a protest, right? We have a lot of protests going on in the US too right now. There's a protest. Now, one political side will see that protest one way, and another political side will see it exactly the opposite. Same occurrence, right? Same exact occurrence. It's just with the lens, the reality of the world that they're looking at the world with, right? It's the filter. Let's call it a filter. They're looking at the situation that they get a different reaction, right? A different meaning from it. So for Toby, his wife does something, he automatically jumps to she's a bitch, right? She's doing it because she's a bitch, not because maybe she's tired, hormones are changing, maybe he's being a jerk and just applying it to everybody else. So I think it's really interesting, and I think that paradigm shift in looking at that, Tim, is a really interesting topic that we could dive into, much deeper on how to get out of that and really see what the true optics are.
Yeah. It's interesting because my mind goes to business too. And, I'm sure the guys listening don't ever wish for business to be easier, do they? Instead, they just wish and work on themselves being better and just accept that, well, this is just business, right? Growing a business takes time. It can be stressful and, the whole thing that goes with growing a business. And typically guys are prepared for that and they work on themselves because that's accepted. And what if you were to apply that same philosophy to your marriage, right? Instead of wishing for your wife to be easier, or instead of wishing that you married an easier woman, you actually focused on and wished for you to be better, right? Imagine if you were in a position where you've done the work on yourself and you're able to rise above so that, you're able to face these challenges with playfulness, right? With a confidence and a calm and a playfulness that you can just pierce through the challenges that the woman might be presenting to you, because that's really what she wants as well. We've spoken about tests and what they mean on previous podcasts, and she's, in case you've not listened to them, women are always going to test men to see how solid and secure they are. Can he provide? Is he there for me? Can he catch me? Can he provide for me emotionally? Right? If he fails this test, then no, he can't. If he fails with me, he's going to fail in the world, and that means that I must find some other way to provide for me emotionally, whether I rise and become the alpha and provide for myself, or whether I get lost in food or the girlfriends or social media or TV shows or even other guys, right? Women will find another source of protection, almost like an anchor. They need an anchor. They'll find another anchor if they don't feel like they can get that from you. So, point is, what if your wife wasn't a bitch or whatever you want to insert? And what if instead she was your greatest opportunity? She was pointing out opportunities for you to grow. And the reality is, guys, you know when something gets said to you that's true versus something that isn't. We've spoken about it before, right? When a trigger goes off, you know how that feels to you. If there's a reaction to it, there's something there. Whereas if it just you can just laugh it off, it isn't. There's nothing there for you. So if your wife's saying these things to you, whatever she's saying, whatever challenges she's giving or how she's acting, and that is touching a nerve for you, then instead of it being all about her, like you were saying, Doug, instead, what if you were to just turn that mirror around and look at yourself and start to inquire about what is it within you that's been pressed or been triggered right now? What opportunity do you have to actually learn and grow? And as you do this, it's kind of like, a bucket. You plug the holes in a bucket and the water rises and it can overflow. That's kind of like what can happen to you and your stock and your energy as you become aware of what these holes are. And listen, guys, we've all got them. We've all got these little holes and triggers. I don't anymore. I don't have any.
Yeah.
No, of course. They're always going to be there too, right? And I think once you understand that they're always going to be there, life isn't about never being triggered. If you live a life where you're never triggered, then I'd invite you to consider whether you're actually in a growth environment. Because if you're growing, then you're going to be expanding, which by default will reveal new things about yourself. So, new opportunities to be triggered, right? So it's never about not reacting or being triggered or even about taking it personally when you are triggered. Instead, it's all about a game of awareness and taking complete ownership. And we've spoken about taking care of your side of the street, taking complete ownership, be it in your marriage or in business or whatever area of life, so that you can become a better man, and by default, then obviously other areas of your life will grow and develop too.
It's so true. And we talk about, lessons, like your kids can be your greatest teachers, right? We all know that. Like if you're a father, your kids could be your greatest teachers because, patience, right? Your kids will test you all the time. And there's theories out there, Tim, that a lot of people have, or not a lot of people, but there people have, that your partner, right, was sent to you or given to you, or you found your partner because she is the teacher of your greatest lessons, right? Your greatest fears, your anxieties, those things that trigger you so often. And you're there to learn from each other. By the way, you are hers in that analogy, right? You're the one that she gets to learn from. And I think what you said there is so important. What a great opportunity this is to look through, right? Looking through this lens, what an amazing opportunity was. And if you look at it as an opportunity rather than a problem, now you come at it with a little bit more wonderment and it's become something fun to do. And who doesn't like fun?
It's totally less charged as well, right? There's less attachment to it. When you realize it's not a reflection of you and being a douchebag or, being a dick or whatever, you've been told, and you realize it's just what it is. It's just, You're in this situation, you're in a relationship. What if she is here to invite you to become the best man that you can be, and vice versa? You're here to invite her. And what if these are just lessons? And what if they are just triggers? And what if everybody does have them? And what if this was just a game of awareness? And then what if you were able to then look at them instead of, well, look at them with compassion for yourself too, instead of feeling like you've done something wrong or that you're inadequate or that you shouldn't have them and that you should be perfect and that, because that's just, it's not real. It's not, you're a human being, these emotions that you feel when these triggers come up, they're not a design flaw. They're there to serve you, regardless of how heavy or how light they are. It's just whether or not you're willing to actually pay attention and learn the lesson.
No, it's absolutely true. Guys, a lot of you guys are ex-athletes, right? Or as I like to think of it, just an athlete that doesn't play anymore. But you're ex-athletes. Imagine you wouldn't want to go play or compete against a 4-year-old. It's not fun, right? There's no challenge there. But what if you take that same mentality to other areas of your life? You do in business, right? Most of our listeners, everybody, people that reach out, they're business leaders. You guys are crushing it in your businesses for the most part. Now you get to take that same kind of winning attitude, not competitive, like you're trying to crush it, but the attitude of like fun, cool, this is a challenge, this is going to be fun. That kind of attitude, and take that to your relationship. Take that with your parenting, right? You're going to be the most amazing, powerful dad, powerful father, right? You're going to be the powerful husband, right? Be the powerful man that you know that you really are. So, Tim, I love this conversation. In fact, we should do another episode where we go a little bit deeper into this, because I think there's a lot we can unpack and maybe even do like a mini coaching session around this. But let's give these guys a couple things, as I always like to do. I love it when people can leave and actually take actionable steps, unless we're telling a story. So what are a couple things the guys can do today?
I think the first thing would just be to play with that possibility, right? That your wife is here to be your greatest opportunity to learn and to become the man that you're capable of being. And also, for the most part, she already sees you in that light. She sees you that way. And when you don't see yourself in the same way, that annoys her. Hence, she wants to invite you to be that guy even more. And that's when more of the challenges come up. So I think the first suggestion here, the first invitation would be to just play with that possibility, daydream, imagine for a little while about, okay, well, if that is true, then what? How might I respond? How might things be different? How might I have responded in the past? How might I respond in the future? And the second thing, leading on from that, continuing that idea is, okay, well, if that is true, what lessons is she inviting me to learn right now? What is it that's coming up for me during these challenges? Am I feeling shame? Am I feeling like angry and I don't want to reach out to her? I don't want to kiss her. Am I feeling being rejected? Is it that's coming up for you there? Because that's a bit of a breadcrumb to find out what the actual opportunity that is that you have to actually grow. For example, if it is that you hold back because you don't want to be rejected, then that's usually around self-worth and feelings of inadequacy that you get to make peace with and overcome. And I mean, just imagine what else would be possible for you outside of marriage on the other side of this as you just plug these holes. This is how a lot of the guys in the brotherhood not only go on to having great relationships, but then mysteriously start to grow their business and work less, and their health everything starts to fall into shape. Fall into place, rather. It's because it's all linked, right? So, I think that's it. I'm just going to give those two. I would like to give three. You can give a third one if you want, Doug.
Yeah, I mean, I think in looking at this, guys, when you ask yourself if it's really true, those things, your stories you're telling about your wife, is it really true? Is there 100% beyond a shadow of a doubt really true, right? Is she always a bitch? Is she always mean, right? Yes or no? And it's hard to do in a triggered state, or can be hard, but look for the alternative. Look for the alternative to it. And if you come up with, okay, my wife's a bitch, right? I want you to come up with 3 ways that you're being a jerk. Just come up with 3 ways that your wife would say you're being a jerk. Odds are you can find those, right? Clean up your side of the street first. Then once you're 100% cleaned up your side of the street and you're perfect, then you can start throwing rocks, right? Then you can start pointing fingers. But until then, it's time to work on yourself, boys.
Nice. I like it.
All right, gentlemen, that's a wrap.
What if you're perfect?
What's that?
What if you're perfect?
What if you're perfect? If you're perfect, that's your biggest flaw, is you're not in touch with reality. We love the joke about it. I know. But Tim, you are perfect. That's why you're Tim, the powerful man, Matthews.
I should be called Tim, the perfect man.
I'll start introing you that way. We'll see what the reaction we get from all the rest of the team. All right, gentlemen, that's a wrap. We'll take this trash talking off air. As always, go to thepowerfulman.com/bonus where you get a free training just like this. That's thepowerfulman.com/bonus. And until next time, we'll see you on The Powerful Man Show.